Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock. It's a Saturday, which means it's time for a Talk Magic, my favorite time of the week. It's where I sit down with incredible people in the Magic community and find out more about them and their journey into Magic. And I've done over 200 interviews, and I genuinely think this is the one that I've been most excited for. When I was getting into Magic in the mid 90s, and I was becoming a professional magician, there was one name that came up again and again and again. It was my source of frustration when I was trying to get more gigs and I was trying to work out how to make Google work. There was one name of one magician that kept coming up, and no matter what I tried to do, I couldn't take him down. I couldn't ever, like, I don't know what I honestly, it was banging my head against a brick wall. And at the same time, this gentleman was absolutely everywhere, entering competitions, doing incredible magic, incredible performances. And fast forward 20 years, he's still very much a part of the magic community, but in a very different way. And we're going to talk all about his journey into magic. We're going to talk about all his journey through magic to where he is right now. But he is genuinely one of my favorite people to watch perform. He has had an incredible career, and he is just a ridiculously nice person as well. I'm super excited to have on Talk Magic the one and only Rob James. Rob, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm very worried that I can't possibly live up to any of that
It's
intro.
true. It's all true though. Genuinely, at one point, I think I might have had a dartboard made with your face on it because I was just so annoyed. I was like, why can't I why can't I ever beat you in the Google rankings? No matter what I tried to do, I just couldn't. You were everywhere. You were the person that everybody wanted to try and beat. You were in so many different ways. And I think there's a lot of new people that watch my channel that have come into Magic in the last few years that might not be aware of who you are or the impact that you've had in this community, but you have had a huge impact. There are things that take place today that wouldn't have even existed if it wasn't for you. And I can't wait to talk about it all and hopefully introduce you to a new generation of magicians because, like I said, you're just as active in Magic, but you're kind of more behind the scenes now as opposed to being front and center. But there's anybody, for example, and we'll talk about this later on, but anybody who went to the Magic Circle Christmas shows, well, we can thank you for that as well. You're a big part of putting those together as well. So there's a lot that you're doing, and there's a lot that you've done. You've had an incredible career, and I want to say thank you for coming on the channel and spending time with me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, I'm really happy you asked me. In fact, I was surprised you asked me because like you said, I'm not sure what my status is in Magic at the moment because I was always like a working magician, which I always think is kind of a little bit off the radar anyway. And then for the last 5 years, I've been sort of AWOL, really. I don't really have any social media presence. In fact, if you're my friend on Facebook, I just don't post anything. I just have a picture and that's it.
Mm.
I don't have any Instagram, anything. I took my website down a while ago. I think if you come into Magic in the last, 5 or 6 years, there's absolutely no reason why you would ever know know who I am. So that's why I was surprised you asked me for that reason. But no, thank you for asking.
Well, you say that you've taken your website down, but that website was that I think found at one point by more people wanting magicians than anybody else's website, and then some. We can talk
Yeah.
all about this, but
Well, no, I didn't. You know what? Until recently, I didn't realize how annoying it would be for other people. But I suppose it does make sense. But I mean, that the reason that I had that website used to do so well is because when I decided to become a professional magician, I did it mainly because I didn't really have any other offers for any other job, and I was just kind of just trying to figure out what I could do. And this was probably 25 years ago. Wow, that's a long time ago. And the conventional wisdom at the time was that you would get threefold brochures made. You'd
mm,
have half with your contact details on, you'd have unbranded ones you send to entertainment agencies. You get like little photographs you'd send out. And the smart magicians would even have their sort of printed availability, like a diary they print out onto A4 paper and mail these to agents once a month to keep them up to date to how they were doing. So
Mm.
that's what I did first of all. And I would so I was probably in my early 20s and I looked quite young. I probably looked like I was about 20, 21 or something, even though I was like 25, I think. And I would I'm getting all these times wrong. I'm not sure. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Um, you get the idea. So
Oh yeah.
I was sending out this information to entertainment agencies, and they just weren't booking me. They just weren't interested. And I thought, oh, I didn't really know why or understand why. And in hindsight, now I realize it's probably because I look very young, and they were probably, happier to book acts that were established who were on their books, who they had a working relationship with. So me as a young kid with a shiny brochure is
Mm.
obviously not going to trick them into booking me. So um, it didn't work. So I was like, okay, what can I do? So I thought I'm going to try and make a website. So I just played around with making a website, and then started using Google AdWords and reading about SEO and that sort of thing. And then almost immediately, I was making a full-time living from work coming from that source. And uh, I used to keep track of how many inquiries I was getting. And at the peak, every day from organic search engine listings, because I stopped doing paid ads at this point, I was getting minimum of like five, if not 10 inquiries a day.
Wow.
So
It's, it's,
that's why I was busy. But I didn't really think about it. I just kind of thought that was what was normal. Um, and it tailed off. It kept going very strong up until uh maybe 2017, 2018, when I sort of stopped being interested in doing it and I hadn't really paid attention and I saw it dropping a bit. But yeah, no, for the peak it was a lot of inquiries and a lot of gigs coming from that.
well, I want to talk more about the business side of things, but before we do, for people that may know who you are, let's give them a frame of reference and let's talk about your origin story. We first met when you were like maybe early 20s, but how did you get into magic? What was your what was your origin story? Where did that all come from?
Well, my first childhood memory is of seeing a magician doing a sliding die box at a kids' party. And I remember
Mm.
watching it and thinking, this guy is having a laugh because I could just hear it sliding around. I know it's in there. You know, you open these doors and it's not there. Close it, it's like, I thought he must think we're stupid. And I was shouting out the rest of the kids. And then when the doors opened and the die was had disappeared, I think it literally just blew my mind. And after that,
Mm.
I remember thinking about that for months afterwards, trying to work out how that could possibly have happened. Fast forward, maybe 10 years or so, I used to watch Paul Daniels on TV. My stepdad um, came into my life when I was about 14, and um, he worked for a packaging company, and he tried to pitch Supreme Magic into buying packaging for him. And what he ended up doing when he went down to Biddeford is rather than them buying packaging from him, he ended up buying tricks from them. So
No way.
he was showing me like some tricks he got from Supreme, and I ended up getting the Supreme catalog and buying some more stuff of my own. And then he very kindly drove me up to Blackpool, uh, probably about that time. And then I got really into it, joined my local magic club, had the help of people like Mandy Farrell, Simon Lane, Tony Griffith, Paul Prager, all these people. They ignore the fact that I was an annoying kid and they helped me. Um, and uh, and then go back fast forward a few more years, someone in the Magic Club said, does anyone want to come and do this paid job in Swindon? And it was something like 100 quid. And I was like, that is a lot of money to go and do magic. And I was really worried about it. I went and did it. And I went, that was the most fun I had in ages. and I got paid more than I got paid in, doing anything else I'd ever done. And I just like, there's something in this. So then I decided I was going to put my studies on hold and see if I could make a go of it, and that was it really.
So how old were you when you went and did that first gig?
Early 20s, like 22, 23, something like that. I dropped out of
And
university, and I was doing temp work at the time. I was thinking about trying to go back and doing another course or something like that. I wasn't really sure. I was drifting a little bit.
Mhm. But immediately, you were able to become a very successful close-up magician, and we can talk about that in a minute, which I want to do. But obviously, at the same time as going out and being a full-time professional magician and making a very good living doing so, I you were also quite well known within the magic community as well. Like a lot of people knew who you were, and what I'd like to do, if we can, is talk a little bit about competitions. More specifically, I think that your act that I kind of think of it as the laptop act. I've said on this channel, it's the best competition act I've ever seen. It really is. I remember sitting in the audience going, "Oh my gosh, this is so funny. This is modern. This is just a great take." I'd seen a lot of acts that I weren't particularly happy. I didn't enjoy that much, but then watched you and I was like, "This is fantastic." So I suppose the question is, where did that all come from? Where did you develop that act? What made you decide to do competitions? Because obviously, at the time that you're entering competitions, you were also very, very successful in terms of you
Hmm.
didn't have a problem with gigs or inquiries or leads coming into your business. A lot of people enter competitions to build their brand, so to speak. I don't think that was the reason you did it. Like, where did the whole competition come from, and and could you talk a little bit about the laptop act for people who haven't seen it and
Yeah.
how you actually developed that?
Well, actually, I have a video of it, which is on YouTube, which if you like, you can link to. But
Oh, yeah.
I made it unlisted for one reason, which is that I make a joke in one of the parts of it where I reference the fact that someone in the front, I'm not sure if it's a man or a woman, and when I watched it back, it felt a little bit like it was a bit transphobic, and it didn't sit very well with me, and I didn't
Mm,
really feel like it should be online because it was a joke I made at the time, but I would not make now because
mm,
with the it doesn't work. So I took it down for that reason. But if you link to it and people watch it with that understanding that I cringe when I see that bit, then I'm happy for you to link to it. But it came together because I was doing lots of gigs, and like I said, I came into gigs purely because I didn't really know. I wasn't sure what else I could do. I had the opportunity. I didn't really plan on being a gigging magician. I didn't. I just, it seemed to be the best option I had at the time to make money, and I went very quickly because of my website, uh, and because of my youth, I suppose, and because of my desire to be absolutely fine to drive 3.5 hours to Manchester, do a gig, and then 3.5 hours home for less money than anyone else probably would have done it for. I was very busy, and you know, and I can't even be bothered to drive an hour now. Do you know what I mean? So even if, let alone 3.5. Anyway, um, but so yeah, I was busy with gigs, but I was always into comedy and theatre and that sort of thing. And I remember I started to realize that the magic that I was doing at gigs, it didn't really line up with what I enjoyed watching. I always thought that it was, you know, doing the same 6 minute close-up set versus me going to what I watch at a comedy club or the Edinburgh Fringe or something. There was too much of a disconnect. And I never really thought of myself as a performer, but because I'd ended up being a performer by almost by accident, um, it took me a while, a few years, to clock that uh, that what I was performing wasn't what I liked to watch. So I was like, okay. So I started to think about some ideas I had for some quirky ideas, and I always liked the premise of the lie detector premise. Where
mm,
you if you don't know it, you have like a device that makes a buzz sound when there's a lie, and so you can
Mhm.
do it. You could do it with a card trick. You could say you have to say is your card red or black? They say red, and it goes buzz and it lies, and it buzzes because a person told a lie. Then you can deduce the card. But that's not the interesting part of that for me. The interesting part is when it starts to buzz. When you say, "Oh, thank you very much, you've been a great audience," buzz, and it lies, right? That's
Mhm.
clever. That's when it starts to get a bit meta and kind of more layered than just that basic premise. So I always really like that, and I always had that at the back of my mind as being something I thought was very funny. Um, and I also used to be one of those people that would sit in the God, again, I'm going to make myself cringe again. When like people sit at the back of magic shows and competitions and they snigger at all the crappy acts and that sort of thing. I wouldn't do that now, or would I? I don't know. Maybe I'd be more discreet. But I was always, sitting in the back with my mates, and we'd like anything that would come on that was bad, we'd find it hilarious. And you know, it's not so much now, but like definitely 20 years ago, there were a lot of sort of older magicians who the acts were just full of non sequitur gags where they didn't understand the timing and didn't understand the joke even, they didn't understand why it's funny. It wasn't really a character line. It was just a standard joke they put in their act that even didn't get a laugh. So I used to find that
Mhm.
that would appeal to my sense of humor, like the fact that someone would be doing these weird jokes that weren't funny, the performer didn't understand, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So I started those two ideas came together in my head, and I was thinking, I wonder if like the lie detector when uh it buzzes when it shouldn't. I wonder if you could have a something where you can make a joke out of those weird magician jokes. Hold out your hand. No, the clean one. Uh, say stop when you get the urge. If you had the urge, why would you say stop? I mean, that's such a weird joke if you think about it. It's like it's like sexual undertones. It's just weird. It's also clearly a contrived line. It's clearly not something
Mhm.
that you're saying off the cuff. It's clearly something that you premeditated that you would say. So for me, that's very weird. Like the fact that someone would say that in the in their act. So I thought, so to me, because those jokes are funny, it's funny that they're bad. I combined those two things, and I made like a combination of the lie detector and I did it with a laptop rather than a buzzy machine, purely because um I found someone to code something with Flash that I could um have a big counter on the screen, and it was controlled with like a remote controlled mouse under the table. So every time there's a joke, I'm clicking the mouse with my foot and making it click over. Now I think you could have like an arm switch or something like that, but
Mhm.
that's how it was working. And actually, when I did it at Blackpool, my my memory of doing that competition was I put the laptop on the table, I had it all ready, and like a little window popped up to try and join like a Wi-Fi network. And this was like about 15 years ago. And I've said in the competition, I was like, it's trying to join a Wi-Fi network in Blackpool. And I was like completely stunned by it. And it completely threw me. I wasn't expecting it. But that's why I had the laptop. And it was a fun act. And I put together another bit, which is like which was lampooning another trope, which was the concept of a lot of competition acts at the time would always just produce large items for no reason at the end of the act. I remember actually someone I've heard mention a couple of times recently on different things. There's an act called Chase Curtis. He had a battery act, and it's that he produced small batteries and then bigger batteries, then like a giant battery, right? And it's like okay, but like, why, So I always thought it's,
Mhm.
and you say lots of coin magic is like coins, 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 big coin, right? And then competition is like big coin, two big coins, offbeat, giant coin, right? So I
Mhm.
just thought I'm gonna put another the idea of just producing a big coin for no reason I thought was funny in a card act. So I did that as well. So when you watch it, you all those ideas. It was me trying to make my friends laugh and trying to have some ideas. And also at the time, because I was so used to doing gigs, I'd kind of suffered a little bit from uh the fact that you do get a bit homogenous if you're gigging, because one day you're at a wedding of just like very normal people. Next day it's a corporate event. Next day you're in a castle. Next day you're in the back room of a pub. Do you know what I mean? So you have to develop a style that appeals to a very broad um, demographic without having to change too much. And in my opinion, it does kind of make close-uppers, it makes them less interesting, and it's sort of like a pebble. The edge, like the edges get smoothed and everything gets a bit more homogeneous. And so when I started to do the act, because I didn't really think of myself as from a performing background, and because I'd spent quite a few years in these environments that had forced me into that kind of style of performing, it was the first time that I was performing something that felt honest. And when I watch it now, I go, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that." But at the time, I felt like for me, I was very cutting edge. So
Mm.
it felt quite brave. And in hindsight, it's a very silly thing to think, but that's how I felt when I first did it. And yeah, that's how that came about. And I enjoyed doing it. I did it in a
Mm.
I did it at the IBM competition. I did it in the international, and it was fun. But the problem was, because it was kind of a magician-y in-joke act. By the time I did it in all those competitions, I kind of um, exhausted the audience for it. And when I did it at Blackpool, it went well. I mean, that's probably the most fame I've ever had in the magic community. The 2 hours after I did the act, because everyone was coming up to me, go, "Oh, I love that, love that, love that," and then but it hadn't placed because all the judges. It was, I think it's kind of a British sense of humor as well, and the judges were like some
Mhm.
judges like Domenico Dante and Eric Eswin. And I thought, oh well, they didn't like it because it's like there's not a lot of magic in it. It's not a strong magic act, and the humor is kind of nuanced British, slight piss taking, subtle humor, which they don't find very funny. So I sort of get that. So I thought, well, that's kind of, I can't really do it anywhere outside of the UK. I've done it everywhere in the UK. So I went, I just shelved it and I haven't done it since.
That's such a shame. But I can understand why. And I think it was cutting edge. You were well, it was. I remember looking at it and going, here's somebody who's actually saying it like it is. He's doing really great magic. It's very funny, it's very entertaining, but he's talking about stock lines, he's talking about this, he's talking about that, and incorporating it into an act at the same time. Great. Absolutely brilliant.
I wish I'd have pursued that angle a bit more, actually. I always think of myself as being a little bit cowardly that I didn't pursue it further. I remember thinking when I first did those competitions, I remember having the feeling that because I was being slightly piss taking and I was lampooning a lot of tropes and existing stuff that magicians did, and I felt that because of my relative youth, I might come across as being a bit sort of snarky and a bit, you know,
Mm.
a bit like punching down kind of thing. I don't know. I felt like I didn't want to annoy people too much. But when I think back on my career, I wish that kind of groove is one I wish I kind of carved out a little bit more, because there were other ideas that I had and other ways I could have taken it. And if I'd have kept going that direction, I think I could have done something quite interesting. But then I don't know, what the audience is for that kind of niche, in jokey kind of humor. I never did it for the public. I never tried it. I was too scared. I thought they wouldn't like it. I thought they wouldn't get it because, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they might, but I can understand why you'd be trepidatious about that 100% because it is very magician centric. But it really is. But you obviously, I think you came third in the international competition with it, which was, an incredible achievement to go there and get third. And then you obviously won IBM with the act as well, didn't you?
Actually, I won the IBM with a different act. I'll tell you what,
Oh, okay.
yeah, no, I'll tell you what happened. As I entered the IBM twice. I was beaten one year by Steve Deller, who did a very strong magical act. He deserved to win it. And the next year, I was beaten by John Vanderput, who was doing um, some great stuff. Character. It was before Piff, but it was character driven, really funny, really contemporary stuff like that. And I always felt a bit like I was so close. I was so close, and it bothered me a little bit. And then I did some other competitions. I think the international one was the one I'm most proud of because one reason I got placed higher than Vanderput on that one, so that was good. But also the winner was Johann Stahl, who was amazing, right? So I
Yeah,
think
it's not an embarrassment we're losing to Johann Stahl. He's
no.
incredible.
I'm absolutely fine with that. That's completely valid to go. So the fact Johann Stahl won it and I was placed, I'm like, yeah, that's I'm happy with that. So I was really proud about that. And what was the question?
You said that you won the IBM with a different act.
Oh right, yeah. So I did a few competitions and I felt like it was I felt it was about I hadn't won anything, so it was always annoyed me a little bit. So I think 2015, I saw that I had a date free in my diary, which coincided with the um, Eastbourne IBM convention, and I went, I'm going to enter. I'm just going to enter. So I didn't tell any of my friends I was going to enter. I didn't really prepare much. I've been working on uh, a really nice version of Chad Long's Flash Coins to Music. I did that.
Hmm.
And I was really pleased with it. I've been just working on it for fun, and I thought it looked very pretty because I was yeah I liked it at the time.
Flashpoint is one of my favorite Chad Longer effects. It's brilliant.
It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, no, I love it, and I was um so it wasn't the act I did before. It was an act based around this flash coins and a couple other things. I can't quite remember. Um, but anyway, I just drove down and I entered and I won it. And I remember thinking, oh well, I've won it. I thought that would make me happy, but I was more annoyed that the act had done better than the act that was actually good. So, you know, maybe that could be an insight into the way my mind works, or it could be I don't know. But I have the trophy for it, but I don't even have it on display in my house. I just have it in the bottom of a drawer, covered in bits of fluff, because I don't feel like I deserved it.
Oh, you definitely did. But back you mentioned John Vanderput and Johan Stahl. Back, that would have been in the 2000s, I imagine, sometime in the 2000s.
Late
Back,
2000s.
yeah, back then, competitions were a really big thing, like huge. Like the IBM was a much bigger deal than it is now. It's kind of gone, a slightly smaller convention now than it was. Blackpool doesn't really have any competitions other than maybe the one every few years. You don't really see many outside of club competitions of FISM. You don't see as many. Ronsday obviously is no longer a thing. Why do you think there's these days there's let it was such a thing, that's what you did. There were certain performers like Steve Della, like John Vanderput, like yourself, that were entering competitions all of the time, and there were so many big competitions to enter. These days, it's not really a thing anymore.
No,
Although,
you're
having
right.
said that, I've just come back from the Young Magicians Club, and they did a great job. But
Well, Ryland absolutely did an incredible job. I think he did absolutely incredible. I was there. That's where we saw each other last, and
yeah,
I think I think Ryland did a great job. I was talking to I was talking to Russ Stevens and who else was there? My friend, I can't remember. Simon Lipkin. Both of them were saying how great Ryland was. So you know, he did.
oh, that's amazing.
And Rodney James Piper as well. We were all saying what an amazing job Ryland did. So you should be very proud.
Oh yeah, I'm very proud of him. I really am. He does an awful lot, but yeah, very very proud of that young man. But yeah, I mean,
Competition. You're right. You're right. There's not many of them.
yeah, the Young Magicians Club, they did an amazing. All of those acts were great, especially considering they were all under 18. But you don't see such an emphasis these days on competitions compared to
No,
back.
it's a shame. It's a shame. I do know as well. There's one you missed out earlier. I know that in the Nyman's convention they're doing now, they have a closer competition as well. But that's only the last few years. I think it's a shame that they've fallen by the wayside a little bit because I'm a big fan of competitive magic. I
Mm.
dipped my toe in a little bit to it, and I have made some good friends because of it, and I've made some. You know, it's helped me in lots of ways with deadlines and that sort of thing. And I also, the last three FISMs I've attended, I always kind of lament the fact that we don't really have much in the way of competitions here, because it means we don't really develop much in the way of acts that can compete at FISM. And I think that I'm not sure if it's if the cause and the effect are kind of like related to each other, but I feel that the the sort of British magician mentality is often, why would I develop an act for FISM? Because I can't do that kind of act at a wedding, right?
Mm.
And I think it's true, but that's also a horrible way of thinking, because it's like saying there's no point me developing something unique and interesting and artistic because I can't do it at a table at a wedding. Well, it's like you can't. That's right. That's true. However, that's very small-minded thinking, I feel, because although the wedding market is huge, you know, no one's flying you around the world to do a wedding. Maybe they once a year or once every 2 years you're going to get something cool like that. But in general, you're not doing that. But you know, you think about acts that are like the top level acts that anyone you can think of that is, you know, doing AGT, BGT, illusionists, FISM winners, Blackpool Gala Show, all these kind of high end acts like this. Uh, whether it's, you know, Colin Cloud or Jan Frisch or Yuho Jin or Chris Cox. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's like doesn't I'm not talking about this, I'm not talking about the particular style, because FISM magic can be a certain style. I'm just talking about like excellence on all levels, right? And the reason I said about Colin Cloud is because I think that he's like, for me, he's because he's so hot on his image and his like social media output, and his material is, he thinks about it very carefully and he works super hard. I think he's like it's like just an example of trying to be as good as you possibly can. Or someone like, you know, the more FISM kind of acts like Jan Frisch or um Yuho Jin or something like that. Their acts you might go, well, they might not be as commercial, but even though I disagree with that. But so I think magicians, they look at these people and they go, well, it's completely, first of all, it's unachievable, but for me, right? You go, there's no way that I can develop an act that's as good as any of these people, because it's like, and also if I, even if I did, where am I going to work it? Because I only know the UK market, and the UK market, corporate events, weddings, and maybe now in the last 5 or 6 years, you can make money on social media as well. I have no idea about that, but you know, I know people. I was listening to a great podcast on Richard Young's Magicians Podcast Network, where he's talking to Magic Singh and Tom Elderfield, and I know, you know, those guys, they
Mm.
make money. Magic Singh makes more money from social media than he does from gigs, you know. So I wouldn't even know where to start with that. Anyway, I think we look at what we know and try and work out how do we fit into that world. I remember one of the first good competition acts I saw in the UK was, I saw Tim Shoesmith doing the IBM competition, and he was
Mm.
doing like a crazy man's handcuffs, where he was like he was reciting a poem, right? And I thought it was really good because it's really creative. And I remember he spoke to me afterwards, and he was like, I just had this agent in London who was quite well known at the time. He was in the audience. He said, like, well, I can't book you now because I've seen what you're doing. And I was like, it blew my mind, because I was assuming that someone will be able to see the difference between someone who's trying, between an act that is doing something which is creative and challenging and interesting, and something which is commercial. And obviously, you know, the same person can do both things. But that kind of small-mindedness that he experienced kind of put him off a little bit. And I feel that, yeah, we don't do it because we can't see how we can work it. But you know, the fact of the matter is, if you put together an excellent act, the magic community and the community of people who book that sort of thing is very small, you know, and they find out very quickly whether that person is someone who's booking a magic festival in Europe, whether it's the producers of Fool Us, whether it's you know, a convention booker, whether it's someone who's got it needs to book some Western silent acts for a Chinese cruise ship. Okay, These people, they all know about all the stuff that's going on. You know, I've got a couple of friends who are really into um magic at that kind of high level, and if one of them sends me like a link to a YouTube video, I can pretty much guarantee someone else is going to send me the same. Do you know what I mean? It's like stuff between a relatively small group of people does move quite quickly, and will
Mm.
and if you produce good work, there's you're not it's not going to be hidden for very long. It's going to be discovered very, very quickly. So the argument for against trying to produce excellence for me is a kind of a logical fallacy, and you may as well, if you want to go down that route, you should try it. UK hasn't had um any accentifism for uh several years now. I know someone's doing it this next time. Um, I forget his name. He has like a Mad Hatter themed act. I know I saw recently he's doing it, but
Yeah,
Matthew Wright did it a few years ago. But we don't really have
no,
anyone that does it. It's a shame.
it really is. It really, really is. And you're right. I think that it would be good for more magicians to enter competitions, and maybe with what we saw at the Young Magicians Club, maybe that's going to be something that we're going to see a bit more of. Because
I thought it was really inspiring. The Young Magicians Club I thought it was very inspiring because all the actors are so different, they're so creative, and
mm,
all had different angles. Compare it to
yeah,
I don't know if you saw the Magic Circle close-up competition, but
I missed it, unfortunately. No.
but the well, it's not the obviously the standard is higher in some regards because people get more polished, but in terms of
Mm,
ideas and being different and trying to um create something new, it's not there. I heard someone said to me about the Young Magicians Club. Like one kid said, uh, "Oh, I know that you're doing something with a handkerchief, so I'm not going to use a handkerchief for my. I'm going to use something else so it looks so we don't clash." Isn't that
that was a conversation between Harry Merlin Piper and Ryland, because Ryland's Harry Potter act normally has a handkerchief flying all around the theatre, but the Magic Circle stage was too small. So we replaced it with the balloon, the haunted balloon that goes up and down, so that the didn't. But Harry didn't know that, and so the first thing that happened, Ryland walked in the door, and Harry and Ryland saw each other. Is he said, "Hey, Ryland, don't worry. I was going to do the hanky, but I know you're probably going to do it because it's Harry Potter, so I'm not going to do it. You can do it."
great? That's I mean that's exactly the kind of behavior we should be encouraging.
Yeah,
Is
and they were also supportive of each other backstage as well. Everyone just wanted every other act to succeed, which is what competitions act should be. Really, it should.
Yeah, they are. I was never a member of the Young Magicians Club, but I know I'm really good friends with Rodney James Piper, whose son is in it, and um, I for the well, not the Christmas show, but the Magic Circle's New Year's show, we
Mm,
had Arabella in it, and
mm,
she's a lovely girl, and her dad is really supportive of her, and I can see having spoken to Harry and Arabella, I know they love the Young Magicians Club because of how supportive it is, and
mm.
yeah, it's something if I had a kid into magic, I would try and get them into as soon as possible.
I'm so jealous watching Ryan go there every month, because I didn't get into Magic till I was 18. I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back in time. It's just do this a lot earlier. It really.
I was jealous watching like Ryland and Harry Merlin Piper because I was going when I was a kid, like if I said, can I have this prop? They'd be like, my parents would be like, nope.
Yeah.
But like, oh Dad, can we fly to London and enter this competition? Yep.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
a bit crazy.
So
The
yeah, so I do yeah, but there we go. No, it's good, but in a way, I think it's a very good thing because
mm,
um the reason why those acts are doing well is because they're being supported by their peers and they're being helped out and by people who want to help them, whether that's their dad or whether it's someone else, I think it's that's going to accelerate the process, isn't it? It's going to
mm,
help get better quicker. So yeah, I think great. It's
absolutely.
great.
Absolutely. Back to you. We've back to you for a minute. We've talked about competitions. Obviously, during that, and I want to talk about kind of transitioning away from being a gig magician in a bit, and what you're doing now in terms of producing shows and so on and so forth, because that's all very interesting. But back when you were a full-time gig magician, you also, I remember seeing so many. We talked about it just before the camera started rolling. You released quite a lot of work from you had Tricks and Genie and ebooks, and there was the DVD on the multiple card find. Uh, uh, and the angled afterburner was yours, obviously, which I just said to you off camera is something that I love performing. Um, was there a reason you went down that route in terms of, because the thing is, you were a working pro going out and gigging all of the time. It's kind of like what why did you kind of go, you know what, I'm going to take this and I'm going to give this to the community and let them. Did
Yeah.
you have a desire to be like the next Jay Sankey? Was it, or was it something else? What was the reason behind that? Because
Yeah.
everything you put out was
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, first of all, the angled afterburner wasn't my move. I was using an add-on move for a trick, for a couple of tricks, but I think the reason was, I think it's because I was just completely immersed in magic. Like I
Mm,
was, and I still think about magic a lot. An awful lot. But going back to my sort of the first 10, 15 years of my career, it was like all my friends were magicians. Uh, my social life centered around meeting my magician friends, going to conventions, going to magic gigs, seeing other magicians, buying magic, learning magic, really. And I just, I was um before I started gigging, I was really into card magic. I never got phenomenally good. I got kind of a good level of competence, but I was always playing around with like variations of moves and stuff like that. And I went to the second deal convention in the early 2000s and saw people like Costa Kimler and Tyler Wilson doing magic for the first time. And I was like, okay. And these guys, they'd always be producing like notes and putting out little bits and pieces here and there. And I suppose I just wanted to be part of it in a way. So I didn't really want to necessarily monetize it. I just kind of liked the idea of contributing towards that kind of world, even though my ideas in terms of um, you know, card technique and moves and tricks is not really that prodigious. Um, so I put a few things in print. I don't actually own any of them at all. I don't have anything of my own.
oh, really?
Yeah, I don't have it. But yeah, I just think it's kind of contributing a little bit and trying to get involved and just kind of it was a side effect of just being so fully immersed in magic and in
Mm.
its culture.
Okay. And if you could give, before we move on to the next stage, if you could give somebody who's new into advice on how to build a business, a successful business, because, like I said, and I don't want to, I want people to understand, for a very long period of time, you were the person that everybody was trying to beat. You jumped into digital marketing for yourself as a magician very early on. Your SEO was on point. The way that you advertise yourself online was on point. We've talked about how many inquiries you were getting a day. You very quickly built up a very successful career as a close-up magician, going out and gigging as much as you wanted to. Is there any advice? I get a lot of people that are on this channel that are wanting to become full-time pros. The question I get over and over again is, "Hey, I'm 16 years old. I'm 17 years old. How do I start getting gigs? What can I do?" I know we're kind of a few years on, but is there any advice that you can give that people that are watching this interview can take on board?
Absolutely. Yeah. So first of all, I'm going to say that I'm happy to answer anything and talk about it. No problem at all. A, a couple of months ago, I recorded a podcast with Richard Young on the Magicians Podcast Network, where
Which is a brilliant network, by the way.
I talk about this in great detail, In fact, it's not. I wouldn't say it's particularly entertaining as a listen because it's very, very um, just matter of fact. Here's what I did. Here's how you could do it, and also here's why I wouldn't necessarily do it again if I could go back in time. And I
Mm.
touch on various things there. So if you're into magic and you're interested in, just some cold cold information, it's sign up for a month for a tenner on Spotify and have a listen. I don't get any of that money. There's also loads of other content you can binge listen to, and I do cover it. But in brief,
Well, I don't want to jump on Richard's toes
no,
by
no,
any
no,
stretch
no,
of
it's,
imagination.
it's fine.
Such a
It's
wonderful
okay.
person. Maybe if you could give us just a very brief overview, and then people, as you say, can then go on to Richard's podcast, which you should. I've been a subscriber since day one. It's
Yeah,
brilliant, and
yeah.
they
Well, only reason
have.
I mentioned that is because it's an in-depth answer to your question. That's the best part
Yeah,
of
definitely.
2 hours. Um, but basically, what I would do is interesting. Well, you have to split it into two questions, right? What would I do? What did I do, and what would I do now? Okay, if I was trying to get work as a closer magician. So what I did at the time was I just apart from the SEO, I also, and this is quite hard to say really. I didn't really go for any angle. I just was like, I am a close-up magician. Here I am. I wear like a nice suit. Uh, I had a very bland kind of website. I had pictures of me doing magic at weddings, and I SEO'd it to get it to rank as highly as possible. And I worked extremely hard on that. And I would I'd do things like I would go, right, okay, I live in Bristol. Uh, Therefore, I'm very keen to work within an hour of Bristol. So like Bristol, Bath, Cardiff, Cheltenham, Swindon, right? Any of these places. So I would have a spreadsheet on my computer and I would go, okay, where do I come on Google for magician Swindon? Oh, number 9. Okay, that's not good. Where do I come for magician Cheltenham? Oh, nowhere. Okay, I don't come anywhere. So then I would try my best through adding doorway pages, which you can Google what a doorway page is, um, to my site for those areas, and then adding more content to those areas. And if I didn't, and then I would track it, and if I wasn't moving upwards, I would place like a very uh I would bid on that very specific term on Google AdWords, like magician wedding Cheltenham. Like, okay, well, I don't come up organically for it. I want to come up on the paid listings. So I would make sure that I was always in the frame for every one of those kind of gigs that I would do. And then I would also I'd optimize for, I don't know if this would work now, but I was optimizing my website for every area of the country, including the West Midlands, which I apologize. But but I was also then um I was either doing those gigs or I was referring them to other people who would either give me other gigs or give me money. And then if they gave me money, I was using that money to fund the Google advertising. Make sense, right? So so it's all coming in like a funnel, and although it's just going like around like this. And so, and you can make money by, someone wants two magicians, so you charge for the two and take money off the second and give them less money than you're getting, and use that money to pay for the ads. And so I was thinking about, I was very like, I was super business focused on it because I thought at the time that all I wanted to do was make as much money as possible. Turns out that was not true, which is why I stopped. But that's what I did at the time. Now I feel like it's very competitive, and also I think although there's some value in being in a kind of every magician, I can do this, I can do that, I can do. I think that going for more of a niche is going to be more useful, whether that niche is geographical or stylistic or material based. So what I mean by that is if you are the Birmingham magician, be the Birmingham magician, right? And just go full on for that and try and get every inquiry that comes in for that area. Stylistically, I mean, if you look like Dynamo, or you have that kind of look, or or you got if you got sleeve, like you got sleeve tattoos, right? And that sort of thing. just, don't hide that, show that, because that's very cool and contemporary. But I would say go more that way, right? Just try and make yourself more like that. Go more, because some people, the conventional wisdom for magicians was always, well, you can't book someone for a corporate event if they look like that. Well, it's nonsense, because the person you say that about, is getting is, is getting the brand deal on TikTok, right? That you don't even know exists. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they're getting that by going super niche. And the other niche is going material wise, magic wise. So uh, if you if you do ambitious card, Omni deck, and some wiki test, and produce a lollipop and whatever, okay, it's fine, and you're going to get booked, but you're not going to get booked by anyone who uh, knows a lot about the subject. And that could be whether that's another magician or someone who's looking to book something cool. So I would say, if go niche, go, mentalism, pickpocketing, uh, very, very highly skilled cards. Maybe your set is completely organic and doesn't use any cards. Maybe it looks like, like a Fey Presto kind of set. Oh, can we use this bottle? Can I borrow this banknote? It looks like you're just taking stuff and you can do magic with it, right? And try and create something like that, and you can get that across through your videos and social media and that sort of thing. And I think that makes you more appealing and adds value to what you can do, because if someone if someone contacts three magicians and they all give them the same kind of price, how are they going to differentiate between them? It's really hard. But if it's a media company and a cool company, then they're going to go guy with sleeve tattoos doing this cool looking tricks. It's got like a really funky looking social media. They're going to get that over someone who looks like they just do, you know, black tie events for doctors or something. So they're going to go out exploring and stuffy. And whereas I was very generic, I felt like the reason I was successful with that is because I was getting such a high volume of inquiries through the SEO. But now, because there's more competition in that regard, I would say that that um catch-all, I can do all this. I don't think it's going to work so much. I'll tell you this, towards uh the last few years of my gigging magic career, I put a video online of me doing pickpocket magic. And I started doing pickpocket magic because I was doing so many gigs. I was starting to just I wanted to do something to make me feel like I was in the moment all the time. And you do like call on the box, don't you? That sort of thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So that's kind of, like that kind of um getting good at misdirection like that feels good, right? Feels good in your
yeah.
bones. Same as like a watch steal. If you can do that, it's like it's very exciting, and it makes you feel like you're working, right? And it forces you to be present, not just in terms of the moves, but in terms of like your demeanor as well, right? So and people can clock it. If you're dead behind the eyes, they know about it. So I was starting to worry. I'm like, oh, I think people can just tell that I'm thinking about what's for dinner or something. So I was like, I'm going to try to do more pickpocketing. So I got okay at it. I wasn't like brilliant, but I could definitely steal a watch. I could occasionally steal a tie and other stuff. And I put a video online where I take a watch and I take a tie, and and he's just filming it on his phone, and he's laughing the whole time. The guy filming, and you can hear his laughter, and you can get a sense of fun from this video. I just put it on my YouTube channel with like the subject, like, pickpocket magician. Oh my God, the way my work transitioned from doing that, like it was like night and day. I went from doing like uh just like I got, how can I put it? I was started to fly around a lot more. I was going out to Europe doing gigs. I was quoting the highest fees I'd ever quoted, because it's a niche. Because if you try and book six pickpocket magicians in this country, good luck. You can't do it, because um it doesn't, well, there might be six people that do it, but there's not that many people that do it to a really high level who will be available. So guess what? You push your fees up. And what I found was, just from that one video alone, and just a little bit of information I added to my website, I was getting interest. Are you still there, by the way? Because you've frozen. Oh yeah, okay. You
Oh,
so
no, I mean, I'm just
you're
listening.
you're captivated. You're captivated.
I'm literally listening to every. I'm finding this whole thing fascinating.
I thought
Just
you'd
your
frozen. I thought you'd frozen, and we have to
creativity.
restart it. I thought we have to start from the beginning. I'm glad you moved. Um, so so I suddenly I got these agents and event planners, all these kind of high-end bookers that had absolutely no interest in me whatsoever for the last 15 years. Suddenly they're getting in touch, and like all these cool names that would never touch me. They're getting in touch and they're booking me. And I'm suddenly I'm going back to these higher end things. I'm going abroad. I'm doing like some shooting some video content for online stuff, which is I'm making like I'm doing. I mean, I did a project for Crime Stoppers where I did it with I was the original contact, and I did it with some other pickpocket magicians, including James Brown and did I do it with anyone else? I can't remember. Maybe I did. But I know I got James in for a couple of days, and I was doing this Crime Stopper stuff, and that was a really interesting project. And it was quite well paid, and it was very interesting work. And it was, and I wasn't having to try as hard as I was trying to get the wedding bookings. I did a video for Nationwide Bank. It's on there. It's out. It's online somewhere. It's absolutely terrible, in my opinion. I think I got paid like 2.5 grand for it, something like that. It was just like a day of filming. And it's just from doing this pickpocket. I mean, it's a terrible video, but and it was like, yeah, I was never getting those kind of offers when I was doing close-up magic, weddings and stuff like that. So if I was going to go back to it now, I think I'd just go, I am a pickpocket, right? That's what I do. I'm a pickpocket. And I'd hold my nerve and I would try and just get, that kind of inquiry. Because those inquiries are out there, whether it's people looking specifically for pickpockets or looking for something, a bit different. And I think that applies to mind reading, that applies to acts which are um, unusual looking. You have to forgive my references because they're a little bit old and I don't even know if they're still going. But do you remember a Mac called Urban Magic? They were like two guys. They would wear like polo shirts and they had like a bit of a more of a kind of
Mm.
street vibe to them. And that to some bookers, that's way more appealing than someone in a suit doing just regular card tricks. It's like that look they're getting. And so those guys, I know when they were very active, they were flying all over the world doing stuff. And so your business model goes from, making a few £100 from doing a lot of weddings and corporate events to charging, four-figure sums less frequently, but having less to do. And I think that's kind of a more mature model that I would probably look at doing if I wanted to gig. But so yeah, but I think that, and also I know we might talk about this later on, but I did put myself in the position of uh, a show booker. I was I put some shows on in Bristol in the Magic Circle, and I put myself in the position of someone who's looking for acts. And suddenly I go, oh, okay, it makes a lot of sense because there are a lot of acts that I wouldn't, for certain things, like for example, the Magic Circle Christmas show, I wouldn't even consider them, even though they might feel like they should be asked. I wouldn't even consider booking or asking because I feel that they're just not, they just haven't got the material for it. So, I mean, something else you can do. I mean, you probably know this. As soon as you do something, as soon as you offer um, even 10 minutes that you can do to the whole room, how much that immediately narrows the pool of magicians down, doesn't it?
Yes,
You know,
massively.
it's like if you
Yeah,
you must if you're not available and you need someone who can do the sort of act you might do on the mic for like a room full of 150 people, you on a Saturday night, you're struggling, aren't you?
you are. There's very few people that do stand-up magic, cabaret magic, stage magic. It's again, when I first got into magic in the mid 90s, I remember close up wasn't a thing. Everybody wanted to be a stage magician. I remember saving up to get a chair suspension, but during the 2000s, it kind of close-up magic took over a little bit, quite a lot. And I think still close-up magic is more popular than anything else, both for kind of hobbyists and people that are getting into it, but also for bookers. I think more people want close-up magic than anything else. But one of the ways that I've niched down is by offering an illusion show. I remember when I put together my illusion show, it was because I was struggling to compete as a close-up magician. Everybody was doing it, so I was like, nobody's doing an illusion act. Let's go down that route. That was and that's opened up so many doors for me over the years.
I think it's amazing that you do that. Yeah. But again, it's just super niche, but I bet you're grateful you did it, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And
100%.
opens a lot of doors that you wouldn't otherwise have open to you.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think more magician. I was speaking to I can't remember who, John Archer maybe, about this. More we both agreed that more close-up magicians should learn how to perform in a stand-up environment on stage, because I think that what you learn as a stage magician is infinitely transferable to the close-up magic arena. I've been to gigs, multi-man close-up jobs, and I've seen close-up magicians go to a banquet table and they don't perform to the whole table, they perform to two or three people, because they kind of have that close-up mentality. And anytime I've ever seen a stage magician that does close-up, they walk over to the table and they perform to the whole table, which I know you do, but there's a lot of people that don't do that. And I think that performing on stage teaches you how to kind of make your magic play bigger and project it to more people. I think it's really important to learn how to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think in this on the same sort of idea, I think that the close-up magic and stage magic are they're kind of, the DNA is kind of the same, but
Mhm.
very, very different. I mean, it's very, very different. And like you say, I think the skills that you can transfer from stage to close-up are very valuable. And it's not that, I mean, it's hard, but it's also not that hard because you can put together 10 minutes. You can I mean, it took me years. I'm really embarrassed to say it. I mean, I think I said earlier, I never really saw myself as a performer. I'm never someone that if I walk into a room and like people aren't looking at me, I'm like absolutely fine with that, right? Like, is I haven't really done much magic for a while now, and I don't. If I go out socially, I don't feel I have to do anything. In fact, I saw some old school friends recently. I went to a stag do, and I'm going to my mate's wedding, and he remembers me as being the kid at school doing magic, and he's going, "You are going to do something at the wedding, aren't you?" And I was going, "Oh God, I just I'm so out of practice, and I don't really have the urge to do it." But anyway, I don't think of myself as a performer.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think it ever came naturally to me. So getting something that I could do for a room, it took me ages before I had the nerve to do it. I was so on edge about it. And when I started doing it, uh, I can't remember whose advice it was. I might have read, I don't know, maybe it was Mark Elston's booklet he wrote called The Meridian Technique. Is that what it's called? I'm not sure. Mark Elston put out a booklet about tricks you can do for the whole room at the end of a set, and I started thinking about it, and someone else said, oh, if you do something at the end of a gig, then you've done all the tables anyway, and they should all be interested. So I just got the confidence to try 5 minutes. I said to a booker after like one of the softest possible gigs you can do, like a 70th birthday on a Sunday afternoon with like
Mhm.
40 people in a lovely hotel, right? I mean, you can't get much softer than that, can you, right? So I was like, I said, I'll do something for the whole room. And I just did like a book test or something. And it went absolutely fine. And I was like, okay. So um I just worked on a few more bits and pieces. And eventually um, I put together like a whole Edinburgh show and some other bits for that. Um, but my point that I'm trying to make, which hopefully people watching this can take away, is that if you're thinking about if you're doing close-up magic gigs and you're not doing 5, 10 minutes worth of stuff that you can do for the whole room, you must absolutely make that a priority as soon as
Mm.
possible, because it will open up so many opportunities for you, and it will differentiate you immediately from all the other people who were like me when I started, who was too scared and or just didn't think it was them. I think a lot of magicians, they come into magic the same, a kind of a similar kind of route. Like my route into magic was not because I loved performance, it's because I loved card technique, right?
Mm.
And I feel
Yeah.
that, and that's not the same thing at all. And
No.
I think a lot of people get into magic because they love tricks or because they love, um, other things. I don't think a lot of people necessarily come into it because they feel they must perform because it's in their bones. But that shouldn't stop you from putting together something like that.
No, I completely agree. Totally agree. And I want to talk about the shows that you've put on and how you've transitioned into those. But before I do, let me ask you one more question. We don't need to talk about what you're doing now, but would you mind just briefly kind of going through your reason for stopping doing close-up magic as a gig magician? And the reason is twofold. One, I said that one of the biggest questions I get on this channel is how do you become a close-up magician? Interestingly, the second most popular question I get on this channel is I'm falling out of love with magic a little bit. I'm finding it hard to practice. I'm finding it hard to kind of read new magic. I buy stuff and I just put it in a drawer. How do I recapture the magic? And I don't know if that's happened to if that's what happened to you. I'm not too sure. We've never talked about this, but it's something that everybody does talk about on this channel and asks me the question. And you were, and I can't stress this enough, we've said it several times, you were at the top of the game. You had as many gigs as you wanted. You had, because you jumped on the website bandwagon very early on. You had a very high ranking website in every area. Like you said, you were passing gigs on to lots of other people and generating income to, create more online. It's not like you're in a situation where you were like, this is not working. I need to start making money doing this. So I hope you don't mind, but I'd love to find out because one, you were everywhere. Like I said, I have a little Rob James dartboard, and I dropped out the community, obviously, as you know, and kind of when I came back, you weren't really around, and it's almost like not. It didn't happen overnight, but it felt like overnight. It's like, oh, hang on. Every time I Google close-up magician anywhere, Rob's there, and now all of a sudden he's not. What? Where's he gone? So what happened, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't mind answering that. Wow. So you're right. I was busy and I was working a lot and I was doing uh as many gigs as I wanted to do, really. Um, Combination of the website, the fact that I built up clients over years. I'd made friends with magicians who'd refer work to me. I was, getting the pickpocket stuff. I was very busy, and um, I was doing financially, I was doing well. Um, so why did I stop? Well, there was a Christmas when I think it was 2015, and I had the most number of Christmas parties I had in a month I'd ever had, and my fees were the highest they'd ever been. So you don't have to do too much maths to work out I was making the most money I'd ever made in a month. And it got to 10 days in, and I just wasn't happy. I was like very, very mentally low. And I was just like, I've never been a materialistic person. I've never been particularly money obsessed. When I was doing well, I bought a nice car and I had some nice holidays and stuff like that. But if you see me around, I'm not draped in designer clothes or like, I'm not like wearing bling watches and stuff like that, or like I, I'm not interested really. Um, so I was kind of like I was thinking I'm making a lot of money, but I'm not very happy. So I was like, oh, okay. So although people say money doesn't make you happy, and by the way, I know that if you don't make much money, it's kind of, it sounds like it's hard to swallow when someone says that, because it sounds like that it's really annoying, because I'm fully aware that when you get to a certain level of comfort, it's very easy to make a decision where you can earn less money. And it's like, that's a privilege that I had. And I don't mean to sort of, I don't mean to make anyone feel bad, but like just through circumstance and hard work and pushing myself, I got to a point where I was doing fine. Yeah, but I wasn't enjoying it. So I was going, well, okay, I've just proved to myself that the money I earned is not proportional to how happy I am. And I took a step back after that Christmas, and I was like, I don't really, I don't really think I enjoy doing it very much. Like stuff, I was getting really narky. Someone would interrupt me at a table. I'd like have a very kind of negative reaction to them. Someone would, you'd approach a group at a drinks reception. Someone would just would make their excuses and walk off. I'd be thinking about it the whole night. I'd be going home. I'd be really upset about it. I was taking things really personally, and I was starting to get very frustrated with the problems you encounter at gigs. And it's too noisy. Some people just don't care you're there. Um, there's 1,000 people, and they book free magicians and free caricaturists, and and you feel like you're making no impact, and all this kind of thing. And I started to, like, probably wasn't much of a coincidence. This was coinciding with my 40th birthday kind of time, right? So I was starting to go, is this what I'm doing with my life now? Am I going to be doing this when I'm 50, 60, 70, going to tables and having people ignore me, and feeling like I'm not really doing anything of any value? And the more I thought about it, the more it got to me. I just went, I'm just gonna have to stop, I think, because it was getting to me. And actually, um on closer reflection, I realized that for several years I've been quite depressed. And when I looked back on the period leading up to that time, I was like, oh yeah, I wake up on a Monday morning, and I stay in my dressing gown all day, and I just eat cereal, and then I only have a shower like 10 minutes when my wife gets home, because so I can pretend I haven't actually just been doing nothing. I'm just on my phone all day, just looking at social media, doing nothing at all. I'm just like, I'm depressed basically, and I hadn't really clocked it. I hadn't really noticed it. So I was like, uh I can't continue doing something that I know is a possible, well, is definitely a major contributor towards my mental health. Just even though it earns me money. So I was like, I'm gonna have to stop. So first of all, I wound it down. I started being really particular. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna travel anymore. I'm not gonna go more than an hour. I'm not gonna um I'm not gonna do gigs which I know are gonna be bad, like, when it's like nightclub level music playing and you have to shout. I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do this and this and this. And then after a while, like, I think it started to get, the problem continued. Like, I started to feel like I wasn't uh I mean, a word I've used before, and I've spoken about this, is I I would often feel like I go up to a group of people with a big smile on my face, and I'd be like, "Hey, I've come to show you some magic." And would often feel like, if it was, let's say it was a group of like quite clearly clued up, smart looking 20, 30-year-old, 20 something, 30 somethings, uh, and I could see they were kind of with it kind of people, and they'd say things and do things that made me feel like I wasn't there for their entertainment. It was more like they were using me as a source of amusement for them, to take the piss and to like to do it. And whether it was true or not, whether I was just projecting my own insecurities onto it, I started to find the entire process of doing any gig, to be quite demeaning. Now, I know that that is an unusual um, situation to feel, and I know that it's not a universal experience. So when I talk about it, I'm kind of conscious that people would go, I don't get that. And then I realized at the same time that I'm fundamentally an introverted person. I don't really like big groups. lots of noise. I don't like being the center of attention. So all this kind of stuff kind of go. I go, why am I a why am I a close-up magician like doing this all the time? So I was like, I'm gonna have to stop. I'm gonna have to stop. So I wound it down, blah blah blah, and then I just I put a deadline in my diary. I was okay, after the 1st of March, whenever it was, I'm not going to take any more gigs. Okay. And it got close to, it got to February, and I was like, okay, I've got nothing. I've got nothing in my diary from the first. Okay, great. And then it got to like 2 weeks before, and I was thinking, oh God, what else am I going to do? And then someone said to me, hey, are you available for this multi-man gig in London? With like, and I was like, yep, okay. So I did that after the deadline. So I went and did it, and I was like, oh shit. So now I've basically gone past my deadline, and I've kept doing it. So then I tried again a couple of times, and eventually I just had to be harsh on myself, and I just decided to stop. Um, and then I didn't really do anything from about 2018 to till for a while. I think I there's a couple of times when I had like a crisis moment when I was like, how can I turn down this much money to go and like I'll get like the sweetest possible gig offered to me, like, a good amount of money to do 1 hour of magic, and it was within 1 mile of my home on a Thursday night. And I was like, you are not, you basically removed all your income source, whatever you're earning much less than you were. It is madness to turn that down. So I was like, I'm gonna go and do it. And then afterwards, I was like, why did you do that? So
Mm.
uh, then I did. I must have done about, I don't know, 4 or 5 gigs like that over about 3 years, and I haven't done anything now for about 3 years, I think, 3 or 4 years. So yeah,
And do you miss it?
no, I don't miss gigging, but I dearly miss magic, and I do miss performing actually, and I miss the community. And I'm trying to. So when you said to me, do you want to be on this podcast? I'm like, yeah, no problem, because I feel like doing this is being a bit, being a part of the magic community, isn't it? So I went down to Magic Circle Young Magician of the Year. I just like being there. I like being part of magic. I like being involved. I like the friends I've made in magic. I like the fact that we've only spoken a couple of times, but I like the fact that by doing this, we'll hopefully be better mates. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's all
Absolutely.
stuff. All stuff. I love that. I think it's great. I love it. I love magicians. I love the fact that they're crazy. I love the fact that um in Michael Amar's Magic Arts Journal book, he has this thing. He has this image called the inverted bell chart. Have you ever seen this?
Yes, I have. Yes, I
Yeah.
remember it. Yeah.
Should I describe it, or do you want to describe it?
Yes, no, please, you go ahead, because it was a few years ago. I'd have to go down and get my copy
Yeah.
of the Magical Arts, but I remember reading it.
So in the Magic Arts Journal, it has this thing based on a bell curve, right? And a bell curve is like I'm gonna have to move I've moved my camera so I can't see myself, but here we go. A bell curve is like this kind of shape. Okay. I'm gonna move myself back so I'm still looking at myself. Okay. Bell curve is like that kind of shape. And it's like it will plot um certain characteristics. So in the general population, for example, if you were to plot how unusual people are, like, if you come up with like a quantifier for normality, whether that's like, whatever, how you want to describe it, the general population is going to sit within that middle bit of the bell, right? It's going to be, and on the outside, on one extreme, you're going to get this like the super nice, your Mother Teresa kind of person, Matt Windsor. I'll put in that it's super nice, so nice, kind, intelligent, community minded, all that kind of. And on the other end, you put like, deviants, murderers, you know, rapists, that kind of thing. Some magic dealers you put in that category. So you have all the kind of like dealers on that side, and then in the middle, and then so what Michael Amar realized was that the magic community is like this chart is flipped over, right? So which means that in the middle you've got hardly anyone, and the majority of the magic community is either on one of these extremes. So they're either like
Mm,
a super nihil or super, and I was like, oh yeah, and I kind of love that actually. I love that there's so many crazy people. I love that. You know, I'd put you, Craig, I'll put you with the good guys because you're like, you make this, you do this for, I mean, God knows how many hours you spend doing this, but like it's you're adding, you're definitely contributing in terms of like your net contribution towards the community is definitely goes up. So but you're doing it because you want to contribute and it's like amazing. And on the other side, you got the people that, you don't want to be involved with. And I do like that. It makes it fun, doesn't it? And I do miss it.
But like you say, you are still very actively involved in the community. And I remember the first time I saw you after coming back to Magic, it was at the London Magic Convention. I don't know if you remember. It was we had a chat at the London Magic Convention. I was like, Rob, how you doing? And I'd only just recently come back to the community during COVID, and this was the first convention that took place after COVID. Everyone was still masked up. It was still very socially distanced, but that was the first time you were one of the very first people I saw coming back into the community myself. I'm like, oh, Rob, there you are. So you're still very much actively a part of it, which brings us bang up to date. And what I'd like to talk about is what you're doing now, which is producing shows in Bristol, and also you produced the Christmas show at the Magic Circle, which is amazing. So how did all of this come about? Because that is the perfect, you say you miss performing, you miss the Magic community, producing shows and booking acts, and that's definitely a way to keep in touch with the community and give you an opportunity to perform if you wanted to.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, so if we go back to, back to the time when I decided to wind up my close-up magic business, I was thinking, okay, I definitely don't want to do that much in December. So I need to do something in December that will be a focus for that month that isn't driving around to corporate events. So I went to a theatre in Bristol and I said, hey, can I have your theatre for some dates between Christmas and New Year so I can put on a magic show? And they surprisingly they said yes, because normally theatres, if you ever contact them, they normally just ignore your message, don't they? Or they, for whatever reason. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. So I had some money saved up. I did some calculations, and I thought if I book a magic show that I'd like to see that has illusions and manipulation acts and comedy magic, um, if it's an absolute failure, how much money do I lose? And it was like I thought I could maybe lose 10 grand. I thought that's quite a lot of money to lose. I don't really want to lose 10 grand, but I could do it and not lose my house, right? So I thought I'm gonna try. And also knowing my sort of personality, I thought I can't imagine that I'm gonna let it fail because I'm just gonna be thinking about it 24/7, which turns out to be completely true. So I booked some acts I really love. The first few shows I had people like Alana from Germany, David Souza, Anson Lee. Then I had some illusion acts, Young and Strange, Matt McGurk, Alberto Giorgi from Italy, Alan, and some magic, some comedy, Neil Austin, Matthew Dowden. Uh, I'm probably some people that I've missed, which I apologize. But I was like, it was like so all these acts. I was super excited about putting them on in my hometown in a theatre that
ooh,
is 10 minutes from where I live, and I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And the first year, they all broke even and made money, and I was very pleased about that. And but more than that, I was very pleased that I was uh putting on a magic show with the kind of quality of acts in it that I would personally love to see. Like, I don't know if you know the act of David Souza, the manipulator, but if you
yeah.
don't know it, it is a beautiful, beautiful manipulation act that I've always loved. And he's from Portugal, and so I was able to get him over for within the budget that I had. And every time he was on stage, I was standing in the wings watching, just going. I could see his act, I could see the audience, I could hear the reaction, and I was so proud that I managed to put it together because, um, normally when a magic show tours, it's not normally that kind of show, is it? Really, it's it's maybe the Illusionists or Champions of Magic might fall into that category, but it's usually not that sort of show. That's the sort of
Oh,
show we normally get at the Magic convention. But I had a high production value, like a I wanted to have a high quality show with high quality acts. I did okay, but to be honest, it was the last year of it. I found it. I in order for it to break even, I had to sell about £40,000 worth of tickets, right? And
wow.
because I'd upped everything, right? I'd upped everything, and I was flying over Horet Wu, who's a FISM winner from Taiwan, and I got the biggest illusion stuff I could possibly get in there. Matthew McGirt was doing like suspended animation and massive spike escape thing, and was kind of, and I was like, and fire spiker. This is in a 300-seat theater, by the way. So I was just getting giddy about having all this stuff in the show. Because all I was interested, I just want the most amazing, coolest magic show that I could think of. So yeah, so my break-even point was £40,000. And although I had the confidence from the previous 2 years, that was significantly more than the first 2 years. And I didn't find the experience very relaxing. I was quite stressed out the whole time. And when it,
Imagine.
yeah, and when it came to the end of it, I was, I felt a bit kind of relieved. And I was thinking, do I do this again? So I said to the theatre, can I, because the theatre were happy because it sold out, and they were obviously they did well on drink sales and whatnot. So they said, yeah, do you want to do it again this year? And I was like, can you give me a week to think about it? Because I just want to have it. I want to go on holiday. I want to decompress. I just want to think about it because I want to. I found it very, very stressful. And in that week, I did it. They had a very enterprising panto company got in touch and managed to sell them booking out the whole month. So I lost it. I was kind of relieved and a bit gutted. And then the, the last year, the Magic Circle, there's been a lot of shake-ups at the Magic Circle, which I'm sure are not that interesting to most people. But in short, I ended up, because I'd done that show, I'd produced that show off my own back. I was in the frame to produce the Magic Circles Christmas show, so I was like, "Oh, this is good." So I'm not gonna make any money from the profits of the show, but actually that's offset by the fact I'm not gonna get any stress. So I was thinking like the £5,000 or £6,000 I made a year from profit from the show, I I balance it off and go, well, I'm not going to make any money, but I'm not going to have any stress. I was like, I think that's okay. So I was happy to do it as in a volunteer capacity, and I got some acts which I don't think usually would normally have done the Magic Soul Christmas show, like Artem Shukin, who's a first prize Russian. He was a Russian guy who's a first prize winner at FISM in Quebec, who has this amazing clownish manipulation act and an incredible second act with suitcase and some silks and stuff. And I think because I'm kind of very detail obsessed, like I get really focused on uh certain aspects of things. Like for example, I obsess over the pre-show music playlist when people are coming
Yeah.
in. And I think about that very carefully, and I visualize the beginning of the show. So I thought very, very carefully about how the show would start. What does the first 30 seconds feel like? And I was very particular about that. And I hope it added a touch of sheen to it, which maybe hasn't been there in other years. So that just comes from my own kind of
I've got a
obsessive.
very good friend that went to the Christmas shows this year at the Magic Circle. He's been every year. I didn't get a chance to go this year, and he said that it was the best year he's been to so far.
Great. Well, I'm happy to hear that. And I think I don't, I'm hoping it was good. Well, I know it was, I saw it, I know it was a good show. And yeah, and I felt like I was contributing positively towards it. I mean, it's not, I've got to be honest, the Magic Circle is odd. It's odd, you know. I love it, but there's also some weird stuff about it. But but I think that Marvin Berglas, he is an excellent president. He's doing a great job, and I'm very much a big
Very much.
I'm a big fan of Marvin. I think he's doing a really good job, and I feel that it's a very um it's a very positive vibe there at the moment. You know, when you were there, this Young Magician of the Year, that was buzzing, isn't it?
Yeah, really was buzzing.
It
Like
was buzzing at
he,
Christmas. It was buzzing. It was buzzing at Easter as well with the shows there that Lee Hathaway produced. Is it's it's going places, and I'm pleased about it.
it really is. It really, really is. He's doing a fantastic job. Would you so would you produce the Christmas shows again if you were asked? Have you been
Yeah,
asked?
yeah, I would do it. Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
I would do it. I think it's because um I feel like I can contribute positively. I feel like if I say this, then I feel like I have the potential of coming across like an absolute twat. But I don't feel like I need for me to feel like I'm being successful. I don't I don't correlate success with financial success as being the sole metric of it. So another reason why I stopped doing the close-up gigs is because although ostensibly it is successful on a financial basis, for me personally speaking, I didn't feel like I was being successful creatively or contributing to magic or doing things which I thought were valuable. So I feel that I get by doing something like producing a show like that, I feel like I'm being rewarded in another way that is not financial, which I'm absolutely fine with because it doesn't um I've found out about myself that I need to feel rewarded in other sorts of ways, right? So and that's what I learned from doing that. And I enjoyed doing it. And I the Magic Circle at Christmas time when the public are there, it's absolutely amazing. I'd never actually gone because I'd always been too busy gigging over Christmas and you know, there's always weddings between Christmas and New Year, isn't there, and that sort of thing. So I never really went. But the public, they love being there, and I tell you what they love as well. They love seeing the uh, close-up magic in the bar as well. Which I didn't think would be a big deal, but they really love it, and you go down to the museum, you can see people like uh, well, one of the shows I went down to, I was getting a bit, I was relaxed by that point. I went down into the bar, I just sat on a table, and I watched Brendan Rodriguez doing uh his act, and I was just one of the punters watching. I thought it's absolutely brilliant. He's an amazing magician. I was like, I just felt like I was properly watching close-up magic in a magic venue by a world-class magician.
Yeah.
Even like I was watching Michael Fitch performing a crowd. Like he is a brilliant like working magician, and like
Mm,
I felt like, you know, when I was watching him, I was like, I can see he's a very high end like worker, and I felt privileged to be watching him as well. Even though 10 years ago I might have gone, oh yeah, Michael, do you know what I mean, Michael? But I was watching him go, oh, he's got an amazing rapport with the crowd. I think maybe taking a step back from magic for a bit has allowed me to go. I see why Michael Fitch is really good. I see it, and I see why Brendan Rodriguez is really good. And I feel like I was able to experience part of the show like the public do, and I can see why they love it. And also this year or last year, Lee Hathaway's involvement, he's made the building look really nice and festive. And
mm,
a lot of time thinking about the interior where people come in, and he went and jet washed the front, and uh he sees things that I don't see, and vice versa. So I feel that when him doing the front of house kind of stuff there, and me working on the show, I think it worked really well. And so yeah, I would do it again. I'd happy do it again.
oh, fantastic. Well, I want to ask you one more question, Rob, because
As many questions as you want. I have no idea how long this is.
well,
I've got nothing to do.
I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you and finding out well more about you, more about your career, more about where you've been, what's been going on. to be clear, if you never performed another trick in your life, if you never did anything within the community ever again, you have established, as far as I'm concerned, a legacy. You were a big part of magic becoming popular in this country. Close up magic. You were there when, having a magician at a wedding became a common thing. Close up magic at corporates became a common thing. You were at such a high level for so long, but even having left the community, producing the shows in Bristol, producing the Magic Circle Christmas shows. You've done so much. If you took most magicians and said, "Hey, at the end of your career, you could have this and have a snapshot of everything you've done," they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that would be amazing." And you've achieved that, but you're still very young. Like, do you have anything else left in your magical bucket list that you want to achieve? Because you've already said you still love magic, you still love the community. I know that you don't perform professionally anymore, but there's other goals that people can achieve within the community. Like, is there
Yeah,
anything else that you
yeah,
want to achieve? Anything else that you want to do?
yeah. Well, I have to be honest, I do miss performing. I do miss it. I don't miss gigging, I miss performing.
Mm,
So I've been thinking about how I can get back into performing. So I have some ideas. I don't want to say what they are, not because it's anything exciting, but because I feel like if I talk about them, I'll probably end not do them. But I do
mhm,
miss performing, and there's aspects of magic that I find very uh this will sound weird because you're still extremely active and you haven't taken a break from performing, but there's bits of magic that but by not being by not doing it, I feel like it's something missing from me, and I don't like it. So silly example, like I used to really love uh nailing a classic force, right? I used to
mhm,
really love uh creating an offbeat that was like an offbeat that was subtle enough for me to do a top change that was not like a crazy action that I can see from the faces that everyone missed, right? And didn't even feel that there was anything happen. And stuff like that I find very, very fascinating. And I feel like not doing that, I get a bit twitchy about it. I'm like, because I find that very, very uh it's like an intellectual exercise sometimes, isn't it? Like you think about it, like if you're in a group and you have to do a top change or a palm and someone's burning you, and you have like a microsecond or to think about what do I do now? What do I do now so it doesn't look like I'm bothered by this person who's staring at my hand, to create the offbeat, to cause the relaxation, to do, and you have all that time, and you do it while maintaining an era of calmness, right? That's so for me, that's so interesting. And I found that, and I used to love that. So so aspects of magic performance wise, I miss dearly, and I'm gonna try and get back this year into doing something. I've got a couple of ideas. So yeah, so I do have some things on my list I'd like to do. Um, but luckily, because I ground zeroed my entire magic career, like now, like if I made like 200 quid from doing something, I'd be like, whoa. Like also I have no expectations for earning that anymore. I would be so um I'd be so thrilled to make to make any money from magic now. I'd be so over the moon that I think I'd get excited about it. And also I feel that having just said I'm not interested in making money, I've just contradicted myself. But I feel like it's more the fact that it's like that. I think I'd numbed myself because I was I was making money effortlessly, but not feeling rewarded. I feel like if I was uh making money by doing something that I was passionate about, I think I'd feel uh more stimulated. And so that, and also because I have no expectation. I'm going to losing my voice. I haven't spoken this much for about 2 years. Oh my goodness. Because I have no expectation of earnings, I don't feel like I have to. I don't feel like I have to do anything. So my point is, if I create like a, let's say, a parlor show, and I do it twice a year, well, I'm over the moon. I've got systems in place now where I don't have magic's not my income, so it's going to feel like I'm starting afresh, and that's quite exciting, especially if it's all
Mm.
coming in on my own terms, which means yeah, no weddings.
Well, would you ever consider putting in a lecture together? Because I think there's so much that you could offer. I would watch your lecture in a heartbeat. Aside from telling your story, you could give incredible business advice. You've created magic in the past. You can talk about how to perform. Uh, 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 you know, I think that your handling of everything is so amazing. I mean, to be honest, I just watch a lecture off you on your thoughts on the multiple card find because it's my favorite plot in Magic, and your DVD changed a lot of the way I thought about it. So, I mean, you have a lecture in you. I know you have. Is that something that you would ever consider doing, or is it like something that you wouldn't do?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I do. I'm gonna be quite open here, and it's like this is quite difficult, but I'm a bit screwy, you know. I don't really I don't put a lot of value in my own work, and I have trouble sometimes with like self-esteem, you know, and I have a lot of little weird quibbles going in my head. So when you say something nice like that to me, I am appreciative of it, but I kind of deep down go, I think he's just being nice. Or I think, well, I could do a lecture, but who's going to come and watch? No one's going to watch. No, and you know, or I feel like, oh, my profile is lower. But even when even when my profile was higher, I was like, well, no one cares about me because I'm just a working magician, and you know, do you know what I mean? So I have all my internal issues to deal with. But if I can get over those, then there's no reason why I can't. Actually, part of the reason why I'm doing this, by the way, I should tell you. And if you've watched, if anyone's watched this, they probably would find this interesting and probably be happy to hear it. And if you skim to the end, then shame. Um, Basically, one of the reasons I agreed to do this is when you said this, I was like, I don't want to do that because I don't want me talking on YouTube because I don't want people watching it going, who's this guy, right? What's he got to say? He's got nothing to say. I don't want, and I know that by as when you asked me, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I go, I'm not going to think about that again and then to this morning, when you messaged me, I was like, oh, he has remembered. That was annoying. And then I was like, and now when you put it out there, I'm not gonna be coming onto your channel to like check the comments because I'm going, people are gonna so the reason I agreed to do it is the same reason I agreed to do Richard Young's podcast, the same reason I agreed to whenever anyone asks me to do something, I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Because I know I'm basically helping myself to get over my own sort of massive insecurity issues. You know, I feel like I don't deserve to be on your channel because I feel like I haven't and that's I know that sounds like it sounds crazy, but that's how I feel about myself, and that's how I feel about my own work. And it's one of the reasons why I haven't got back into magic yet, because I have all these like concerns, like I don't think it's not good enough, right? I want to do this, I want to do this, I want it to be this, I want to be this good, I want it to be, and I set all these standards of things I should achieve, and before I can even try them, I I don't even want to take the jump because I know it's too high. And I have all so this for me is kind of a kind of form of catharsis and demon, you know, attacking because I can kind of, you know, deal with that. Like when you talk about the multiple selection DVD, I'm like, I just kind of I could never watch that, you know. And actually someone came up to me at Blackpool this year, mentioned it, and I was like, I feel like, oh God, because I think about that DVD, I think about how low energy the performance sections on it are. I feel about how like at the time I felt that it should be Paul Cummins doing it, right? Because I thought Paul Cummins was I think he's the master. Well, he's passed now, but he was a brilliant magician, and I always feel like, you know, he should have been the person doing that, not me and the other guy, you know.
Yeah, I understand. I do. I was speaking to somebody about this the other week, actually. That I mean, what you're describing in a way is a little bit like imposter syndrome, and we were
Mhm.
talking about imposter syndrome in magic, and a lot of magicians do have that imposter syndrome, and you know, it's amazing the amount of magicians I speak to that
You have it?
the general magic community would look at a very high level and go, "Oh my gosh, their success is incredible," and in reality, they're kind of just like, you know, they do suffer from a lot of what you described.
Do you ever get that feeling?
Yes, all of the time, all of the time. I genuinely do. When
Does it affect your
you know,
ability? Does it affect your ability to work and create and do stuff, or do you find that doesn't happen?
it doesn't affect my ability to work and create or anything like that. But I find it very hard sometimes to take compliments. Like I'll have people come up to me and say, "Oh, I've got your trick. It's amazing." And I kind of just sit there going, I don't know what to say. It's kind of like, thanks. Do you know what I mean? It's very. I it's I'm always the most self-critical person of anything that I do. And I look at anything I produce and I'm like, yeah, that's good, but that could have been so much better. And
Mhm.
it's yeah, so I know exactly where you come from. I don't get it to the same extent as other people, but
Mhm.
I do I sometimes, wonder how I've got myself into this position where, I'm doing this YouTube channel, I'm doing this, I'm working with this company producing this company producing this trick. I sometimes just sit here thinking, well, very, very soon somebody's going to realize I'm just a massive fraud and I have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm going to get completely found out because I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm literally winging it as I go. Um, and opportunities come my way, and I find it very difficult to say no. But then that kind of puts me in a situation where I'm. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult to articulate in a way, but
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, I do. I yeah, it can be difficult sometimes,
I think
but
because when you say that, it's interesting because I always feel that people who do feel that way, like I always feel it's probably better. Unfortunately, it's probably better to feel that way than to have the other way around, which is where you think everything you do is absolutely amazing and everyone loves it, and then you're unable to think critically about your own work. Um, it's not good for your mental state if you're constantly doubting what you do. But I think unfortunately for the world, it's probably better for your quality of work, right? Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you know what? You talked about Ryland earlier on. Ryland has that sometimes. Like he came off
Already?
the
Oh no.
well, yeah, he came off the I don't think it's been self-critical or if it's more a case of high standards, but he came off the Magic Circle stage doing that act that you saw. And I was like, dude, that was amazing. And he's like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't because of this and this, and I did this and this and this. And I was like, right. I was in the audience watching, and it was perfect. He's like, no, you missed this and you missed this and you missed this. I'm like, I may have missed it, but everyone else missed it as well because I don't know what you're talking about. But he was like, no, I could have done that better. And I reached over here and I did this too early. And then I picked this up and it was in the wrong hand, which meant I had to switch it over. And like nobody else notices these things other than you. This is a very small thing. It's a perfect performance from my point of view. But I think maybe it's something to do with magic or performing that you want it to be perfect. You
Yeah.
want
Well,
it
you
to
know what,
be the
my
best.
uh my friend Simon Coronel, um, who is an amazing magician, uh, he said something which always rings in my head. I heard him say this many years ago. He said that the reason this is because when you are the artist, okay, I know that's like a very broad term, but the artist always has a vision in their head of how the end product should look. So when the end product differentiates from that, they see all the flaws and the imperfections in it, and they see where they went wrong, and they find it really hard to deal with that. I think that's why. That's why we feel that way, because we can feel and notice that the discrepancy between the our imagination and the reality, and we don't like it.
Well, I think you're right, 100%.
Yeah.
But
Simon's right.
yeah, well, this has been, and I'm not just saying this, I mean it. This has been one of my favorite interviews that I've ever done. I was looking forward to this interview
I wasn't.
because we've known each other for years, but we've never been close.
Right, right.
We've never, but we've known each other. We're the sort of people that can like walk past each other and go, "Hi, Rob. Hi, Craig. How you doing?" Have a 5 minute chat and then move on.
Yeah.
But I've always found everything that you've achieved absolutely fascinating, and I've always wanted to know more about you and more about your career and your thought process in terms of the early days and leading up to now. And I was genuinely really looking forward to finding out more about this. And genuinely, Rob, it's not disappointed at all
And
because
I'm pleased we could chat as well. Like I love the fact that you do this channel. I watch some of it. I don't watch all of it. I think that's physically impossible for most people. But, like
I can't.
I, but I do watch some of it, and I love the fact you do it. I love the fact you do all the other stuff in magic that you do, because you're not doing it. You're doing it because you love magic. And you're doing it, and I
Mm,
can see that. I can see that's your motivation, and I love that
yeah,
because I can. That for me, that's the only reason to do it. And I think
yeah.
that's great, and I both like and respect that's why you're doing it. So as a result, I always find that because I clock that's going on. That's why you're doing it. That's what your motivation is. That actually builds my opinion of you up, right? Because I go, it's like, you know, whatever my opinion of you was before, it's, it helps to give me a more crystallized perspective on you and as a person and your motivation. And so I see that with uh I like it, and I'm happy that we've had the chance to talk.
Likewise, and you're right. I do this for two reasons. The first reason is I love magic with a passion, and the second reason is honestly, I want Ryland to be proud. When I left the community, I wasn't exactly well liked. I don't know if you remember back in those days. I was, kind of the guy that was the bad boy of magic. I was the one that was ranting the internet, kicking over tables, annoying people. And when Ryland started getting into magic, and I was like, right, okay, I'm going to have to start taking him to conventions. He's going to want to do that. I didn't want him to walk around conventions and go, "Oh, that's Craig Petty's son." So it's I do love magic so much. I really do. It's changed my life. Uh, but also it's because I want Ryland to be able to walk into the YMC and go, "Yeah, my dad's Craig Petty," as opposed to, "No, my name's Ryland. Who's Craig Petty? I don't know." So it's twofold. So yeah, that's that's the
Great.
truth. But
Amazing.
yeah, having kids changes everything for me. But it's genuinely, and I can't wait to be at the next convention that you're at, because it'll be great to catch up after this interview. I'm assuming you're going to be at the London Magic Convention, maybe. Sorry,
Maybe.
the Magic Circle, Magic Circle one on the 11th of May, 12th of May, something like that. Something in
I've
May.
no plans to be, but possibly.
Well, if you're there, I will see you
I'm
there.
trying
If
to
not,
attend more stuff. I'm trying to get back into it. I was so full on magic for so long, and I realized it's a gap in my it was a bit of a gap in my life when I left. So I'm trying to get back and do and 10 more stuff. So I should really be there. If not, I'm sure I'll see you at something else soon.
you will see me. I'm almost at every convention these days, so you'll see me somewhere. I'll definitely be there. But Rob, thank you
You're one
so.
of the most famous people at magic conventions now. You've been no, you have to get past the wall. People
It's
trying to get a selfie.
it, it's so weird, Rob. It really is. Magic's the only. It's so weird that like the Blackpool Magic Convention, I was meeting my wife by the front door, and I had to go from the dealer hall to the front door, and it took me literally an hour to get to the front door because everyone
Yeah.
was stopping. I didn't want to say no. I've got to. It was like, yeah, of course, come here. And it's so weird because like you feel like a celebrity within that small ecosystem. But then if you walk 2 minutes down the high street of Blackpool, nobody knows who you are. You're just a guy walking around the street. So it's
Do you enjoy that or not? Do you like it?
I like meeting magicians, and
Mm.
I like what I like as a creator. My favorite thing, genuinely, is having somebody come up to me or somebody email me or somebody say, you know what? I'm from America, for example, and this trick that I bought that you created, I do it in every performance and I get rave reactions. And it's nice to know that something that I dreamt up, probably sitting in my bedroom or in my living room or something, is impacting somebody else's life on the other side of the country. They're having an amazing reaction. And I'm not even now, I'm never going to meet that person, but something that I've put together has helped. That's what I love. That's what I love. I love when people come up to me and say, "Oh, I bought this and it's amazing." And I get emails from people saying, "You know what? I'm new into magic. I found your channel, and now I'm full-time magician because of the advice that you shared on the channel." Or, "Hey, I had an email the other day. I just entered and won my club competition, and I've always been scared of performing, and it was your advice on dealing with nerves that got me to enter the competition, and I won with the tricks that I bought from you." And that's the stuff that I love. That it genuinely is what makes it all worthwhile. So yeah, that I love that. That's the part I really like. But I don't like feeling like a celebrity a lot of the time because I don't feel I am a celebrity in magic. But you know, hey ho. But you're my hero, because, well, hero, as I say, I've still got my Rob James dartboard. I'll take it down now, so it can come off the wall. But thank you so much for coming on the channel. And I know you're not going to read the comments. You've already said that, but I want everybody to leave a comment down below, um, and let Rob know what you thought of the interview. More importantly, let me know in the comments down below. Were you somebody who was like me, gigging when Rob was around? And I want to know. Let me know in the comments down below. If you've never heard of Rob before, what do you think of the interview? And if you haven't, by the way, he's amazing. If you see him at a convention, go and say hi. But Rob, thank you very, very much for doing this. And also, I'm going to put a link down below. If it's okay with you, I'm going to put a link to two things. I'm going to put a link to that video if you send me the video link, so
Yep.
you can
Yep.
see the competition that we talked about. Just remember that there's a moment in there that Rob's not happy with. That's why it's not live. But please remember that. And then secondly, I'm also going to put a link down below to Richard Young's podcast, which is the best value in magic as far as I'm concerned. It's an incredible podcast. And if you want to know more about Rob's thoughts about the business side of magic, and you want a kind of a 2-hour masterclass, that is in the archives in the Magicians Podcast network, along with everything else. So I'll put a link down below as to how you can sign up for that. But you should do so because it's an incredible deal. So I'll put those two links down below in the description. But Rob, one more time, thank you so much for coming on Magic TV. I'm glad, even though you didn't want to initially, you have, because it's been a fantastic interview.
Thanks, Craig.
No problem. On behalf of Rob James, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll be back next Saturday with another Talk Magic, and I'm going to be around tomorrow with a Q&A and with a review show special. So I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. My name's Craig. This is Rob James, and this has been Magic TV.